ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So yesterday we were halfway through this sloka, so we will again do this sloka and then we will go through the further purports. It is second canto, chapter 10, slokas 37 to 40. Prajapatin manun devan rishin pitra ganan pratak siddhacharana gandharvan vidyadharashura guhyakan kinnarapsaro nagan sarpan kim purushan naran matra raksha pisachamscha preta bhuta vinayakan kusmandonmada vetalan yatudanan grihanapi Kagan, Mrigan, Pashun, Vrikshan, Girin, Nripa, Sarishprisan, Sarishripan, Dvividas, Chaturvida, Yenne, Jalasthala, Nabaukasha, Kaushala, Kushala, Mishra, Karmanam, Gatayastvamam, Imaha. Okay. O king, how from O king, know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksha, the periodical heads like Vaivasvata Manu, the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, the great sages like Bhrigu, Vyasa, and Vashishta, the inhabitants of Pitruloka and Siddhaloka, the Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Kinnaras and angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kim Purushas, the human beings, the inhabitants of Martya Loka, the demons, Pishachas, ghosts, spirits, lunatics and evil spirits, the good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forest, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities born from embryos, from egg, from perspiration, and from seeds, and all others, whether they be in water, land, or sky, in happiness and distress, or in mixed happiness and distress, all of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord. Okay. Purport: the varieties of living entities are mentioned in this list, and with no exception, from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet of the universe, all of them in different species of life are created by the Almighty Father Vishnu. Therefore, no one is independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 14:4, the Lord therefore claims all living entities as his offsprings in the following verse: Sarvayoneshu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahadyoner aham bija pratapita. The material nature is compared to the mother. Although every living being is seen to come out of the mother's body, it is still a fact that the mother is not the ultimate cause of such a birth. The father is the ultimate cause of birth. Without the father's seed, no mother can give birth to a child. Therefore, the living beings, in different varieties of forms and positions within the innumerable universes, are all born of the seed of the Almighty Father, the personality of Godhead. And only to the man with a poor fund of knowledge do they appear to be born of material nature. Being under the material energy of the Supreme Lord, all living entities, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, are manifested in different bodies according to their past deeds. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord, 7.4. The material, so 7.4, Bhumira Ponala Vayo, that one. The material nature is inferior in comparison to the living entities, that is the superior nature. Living entities are the superior nature. The superior nature and inferior nature of the Lord combine to manifest all universal affairs. So this we had many times discussed. The whole universe or whole creation can be explained as the Lord and his energies. And the energies, twofold energies are mentioned here, the material and spiritual. So material energy is this earth, water, fire, air, ether, and spiritual energy is we, the living entities, right? Some of the living entities are relatively happy in better conditions of life, whereas others are in distressed conditions of life. But factually, none of them are actually happy in material conditional life. No one can be happy in prison life, although one may be a first class prisoner and another a third class prisoner. The intelligent person should not try to be promoted from third class prison life to the first class prison life, but should try to be released from the prison altogether. One may be promoted to first class prisoner, but the same first class prisoner is again degraded to a third class prisoner in the next term. One should try to be free from prison life and go back home, back to Godhead. That is the real goal for all types of living entities. So trying to sort out our problems in materialistic way, it is like, no, we are third class prisoners if we don't have sufficient money or sufficient status and things like that. So we want to become, rich in this world. So we want to solve all the problems in this world and make the world very happy place to live in. So here it is mentioned like, no, nobody can be satisfied and peaceful in the prison house. So no, trying to adjust things in this world is kind of foolishness. So we should know that we have to vacate this place at any point in time. So we have to prepare for our eternal life. No, that is very important. Okay. Text 41. Sattvam rajas tama iti tishrah sura nru narakaha narakaha tatrapekaiksha ekaiksho rajan vidyante gatayastrida yadaikaikattaro nyabhyam swabhava upahanyate. According to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. O king, even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by other modes and acquires its habits also. So there are, like we say, 84 lakh different species of life. No, it's all coming from these three modes of nature. So when these three modes of nature is again combined with different permutation and combination, so then it results up to 84 lakh different kinds of combinations, and that many different kinds of bodies of living entities are there, right? So that's how the different bodies are existing. So purport, the living entities individually are being conducted by a particular mode of nature, but at the same time, there is every chance of their being influenced by the other two. Generally, all conditioned souls in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion, because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill his individual desire. But in spite of individual mode of passion, there is always the chance of being influenced by the modes of nature by association. If one is in good association, he can develop the mode of goodness, and if he's in bad association, he may develop the mode of darkness or ignorance. Nothing is stereotyped, means completely dynamic. No one can change his habit by good or bad association, and one can change his habit by good or bad association, and one has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between good and bad. So that is why the scriptures are there, the sadhus are there, so they can help us in identifying what is good and what is bad, and it should be done with intelligence. So we had discussed this point, that if we say that with intelligence, why take the intelligence into picture? Whatever I feel like, this is what I feel like doing. This is what it appeases to me, or this is what suits me, and things like that. So that is the association of the mind. The mind actually goes completely in line with the three modes of nature. So we have to use the intelligence, which is discriminatory power, which will say, no, the sadhus are telling like this, the shastra is telling like this, and this must be true, and whether I like it or not, I must do it. That's the use of the intelligence here, right? So the best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord, and by that association, one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of Lord's pure devotees. As we have already seen in the life of Srila Narad Muni, he became the topmost devotee of the Lord simply by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. By birth, he was the son of a maidservant and had no knowledge of his father and no academic education, even of the lowest status. But simply by associating with the devotees and by eating the remnants of their foodstuffs, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the devotees. By such association, his taste for chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord became prominent. And because the glories of the Lord are non-different from the Lord, he got direct association with the Lord by the means of sound representation. So this, we had often discussed this point, no? Abhinnatvam nama naminaha. So like there is no difference between the nama and the nami. So there is no difference between the name of the Lord and the Lord. There is no difference between the descriptions that glorifies the Lord and the Supreme Lord. So in that way, the Bhagavatam is directly, the Lord. So when we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we have direct association with the Lord, right? So if you are not able to perceive the Lord through the process of hearing, even if he comes directly, we will not be able to perceive him. We will not be able to appreciate him, right? So it is very important that this sound vibration, that we are getting exposed to in the form of the holy name and in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is direct association with the Lord. Okay. Similarly, there is the life of Ajamil, sixth canto, who was the son of a Brahmana and was educated and trained properly in discharge of the duties of a Brahmana, but who, in spite of all this, because he contacted the bad association of a prostitute, was put into the path of lowest quality of Chandala, or the last position for a human being. Therefore, the Bhagavatam always recommends the association of Mahat, or the great soul, for opening the gate of salvation. To associate with persons engaged in lording it over the material world means to enter into the darkest region of hell. One should try to raise himself by the association of great soul. That is the way of perfection of life. So just by associating with great souls, we can actually achieve perfection of life. And we can see that the Srimad Bhagavatam is personification of so many great personalities. Parikshit Maharaj is there, Shukadeva Goswami is there, all the Pandavas are there, and then Krishna, Krishna's direct association we are getting. One is reading about Krishna's pastimes, another is the sound vibration of Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. So in this way, we have so much of association of great personalities. And here we also saw the logic that the sound vibration, associating with sound vibration, is direct association of the with the personalities. So in that way, we are getting so much of good association just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Text 42. Saye Vedam Jagaddata Bhagavan Dharma Rupadrik Pushnati Sthapayan Vishwam Triyan Nara Suradibihi. He, the personality of Godhead, as the maintainer of all in the universe, appears in different incarnations after establishing the creation, and thus he reclaims all kinds of conditioned souls amongst the humans, the non-humans, and the demigods. Right? So the Lord appears in different forms just to reclaim the conditioned souls. So here its specific thing is mentioned as the Supreme Lord being the maintainer of the universe. So Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesha. So in that we see that Vishnu is the maintainer. The Supreme Lord always maintains. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. So he supplies the needs and necessities and he maintains. Right. So we also saw one time an example. So we outsource our creation, our house, building the house, if we take, we outsource, it to the mission and all the construction workers. And destruction, if we want to rebuild the house, we may call some people to destroy and then rebuild. So but then the maintenance of the family, we only do personally. We don't outsource it to anyone. So in that way, like, the Lord is a maintainer of everything, right? Okay. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu incarnates himself in different societies of living entities to reclaim them from the clutches of illusion. And such activities of the Lord are not limited only to human society. He incarnates himself even in the fish, that is, fish incarnation is Matsya, hog incarnation is Varaha, and tree and many other forms. But less intelligent persons who have no knowledge of him deride him even if he is in the human society as a human being. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad Gita, Avajananti mam muda manushim tanumashritah param bhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. As we have already discussed in the previous verses, it is concluded that the Lord is never a product of material creation. Now, in fact, we saw many different shlokas in regard to that. One of the prominent shlokas is Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvatah. So one who understands that the Lord's Janma, birth and activities are completely transcendental and beyond the material creation. So then we also get the opportunity to go to the spiritual world. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam iti so Arjuna, right? So once we give up this body, there is no punarjanma. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. So in this way, like, we can actually see that we have very good chance for going back to the spiritual world just by understanding this basic thing, that Lord is never a product of material creation, right? His transcendental position is always unchanged. He is the eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and he executes his almighty will by different energies. As such, he is never the subject of reactions for any of his acts. He is transcendental to all such conceptions of action and reactions. Even if he is visible in the material world, the exhibition is only of his internal energy, for he is above the good and bad conception of this material world. So even if Lord were to appear in the material world, it is not because we can, one of the logics can be applied. So what we can actually see, so the gross elements is what we can see. So we had sometimes analyzed this five elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So ether is only space. In space, only sound exists. So then air, so the next element, air, is in the air, sound exists. On with that, we can also feel the air. When the air blows, we can actually feel the air. So the sensation of touch is also there. The sound is there, the touch is there, and then fire. So in the fire, if we see the fire, sound is there. You can touch and feel the fire, and then the fire has a form also, right? The fire has a form, and the visibility actually comes from fire. So fire, water, and earth, the upper, grosser elements, they can be seen. Anything lower than that, that is, air cannot be seen and ether cannot be seen. Then forget about mind, intelligence, they can never be seen. False ego, they can never be seen. And we saw that spiritual elements are more finer than these elements. Then how can people see with the material eyes? That means if they are able to see the Lord in the material world, that means he must be taking a material form to come. That is how we are able to see him. So this is how the impersonalists actually deduce that the form of the Lord, which he manifests in this world, is also Maya. It's also made of material energy. Otherwise, how could we be able to see that particular this one? So we should also understand that the Lord is the master of the entire creation, and he can do anything and everything as he wishes. Now, if he wants to give darshan to all of us in his transcendental form, then what's the problem? This is a logic, what I've mentioned now. It is pertaining to the material things, and spiritual thing doesn't fit under this logic. So the Lord, it's very important point it's mentioned here. Even if he is visible in the material world, that means No, in the material world, only from fire and above is what we can actually see, and air, ether, and mind, intelligence, and all we cannot see. And we are saying, no, the Supreme Lord is spirit. So then, how can the spirit be seen? So spirit can be seen if the Lord wishes to. No, if the Lord wishes to show Himself, He can be seen, right? So that's the point here. It is not that Lord is not limited to the material definitions. Oh, the matter cannot be seen by the eyes. That means how can even the subtle matter cannot be seen by the eyes? Then how can the spirit can be seen? So if the Supreme Lord wishes, anything is possible. No, that's the point here. So we cannot drag the Supreme Lord to fit the material definition. No, He is beyond all the material definitions, right? So that is something, that faith we should develop. No, even though we are able to take darshan of the Lord, uh, means not we, when Krishna avatar, Rama avatar, and different avatars of the Lord were there, even common people could able to see them. No, why? Because they were allowing themselves to be, seen. No, that is the main point. It is not that, no, they had taken a material body to come inside this world. That's why they are, visible to us. No, that is Mayavad philosophy, right? So, hmm. So even if he is visible in this material world, the exhibition is only of his internal energy, for he is above the good and bad conceptions of this material world. In the material world, the fish or the hog may be considered lower than the man, but when the Lord appears as no fish or hog, he is neither of them in the material conception. It is his causeless mercy that he appears in every society or species of life, but he is never to be considered one of them. Conceptions, okay, so in this connection, there is one nice example is there in the scriptures. No, the, what is that? In a water body, there is nice fishes are there, no? And sometimes in the night time, the moon is reflected on the water body, and the fishes in the water, they think that, oh, here is a bigger fish that has come to our pond today, right? So but actually the moon is, no, moon is there in the sky, and it's just the reflection of the moon in the pot. And that is how when the Lord appears, people think that, oh, maybe some bigger powerful personality has appeared. No, he is also just like us. No, that is a mistake. He is a resident of Vaikuntha. He is the master of Vaikuntha, and he has very, very mercifully descended to this world. And we should not think like those foolish wishes that, here is another bigger fish, in our pond. So it is not like that, right? So the Lord is completely transcendental to the pond or the water, but he appears to, he just appears with his internal potency, just to give us, his mercy. We should not consider him to be one of us. Another example given is that sometimes the chief minister and different people, big leaders, so they go to like a mental asylum or prison, to distribute some sweets, or to talk with people over there and things like that. So sometimes people think, "Arey, like ek aur aa gaya andar." No, he's also like, he's also like us. The mental people think that, this person is another mental who has come. So, and this mental, what he is telling, no, it seems he's chief minister. Oh, I'm also chief minister. So like that. So in this way, we can see that people may equate the Lord to themselves. No, that is not very good actually. So he may appear as a fish, Matsya avatar, or Varaha avatar, and things like that. But we should not consider him to be an ordinary entity like what we are seeing. So in this, sorry, it is his causeless mercy that he appears in every society or species of life, but he is never to be considered one of them. The conception of material world, such as the good and bad, lower and upper, important and insignificant, are estimations of the material energy, and the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all such conceptions. The word parambhavam, or transcendental nature, can never be compared to material conception. We should not forget that the potencies of the Almighty Lord are always the same and do not decrease, because the Lord assumes the form of a lower animal. So, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu and all, so they were thinking like this, oh, this Vishnu has now got afraid, and now he has come in a form of a pig, he's come in the form of a lion, and things like that. So, no, they were thinking in that way, like, oh, he has taken a very, very low form. No, usko patan ho gaya, Vishnu ko patan ho gaya abhi. Like, he's fallen from his position, right? So, but that is the mistake. We can never, we cannot equate the Lord like that. Even whatever form the Lord takes, He is always the Supreme Lord. He is always, full with all the opulences and things like that. Right? There is no difference between Lord Sri Rama, Lord Krishna, and his incarnations as fish and hog, as he is all pervading and simultaneously localized at any and every place. But the foolish person with a poor fund of knowledge, for want of that param bhavam of the Lord, cannot understand how the Supreme Lord can take the form of a man or a fish, and one compares everything to one's own standard of knowledge, as the frog in the well considers the sea to be like the well. No, the frog in the well cannot even think of the sea. And when such a frog is informed of the greatness of the sea, it takes the conception of the sea as being a little greater than the well. As such, no, as such, one who's foolish about the transcendental signs of the Lord will find it difficult to understand how Vishnu can equally manifest himself in every society of living entities, right? So this is like frog in the well mentality. A frog in the well is mentioned that another frog comes from a sea, and he says that the ocean is a very very big thing, big this one. And the frog in the well says like maybe two times of this well or four times of this well. And how many ever multiplication you do, you can never imagine the size of the ocean. And that is how our conception, our ideas are like, our perception of this world is so small, and the actual thing that exists is very big. And then the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he's ultimately big, because he's the Paramdhama, he's the resting place of everything that exists. So then obviously he must be like really really very big. So how can we actually understand his activities? And if we compare his activities to ordinary living entities, so then that will become a very offensive thing towards Lord Vishnu, right? So text 43, ततः कालाग्नि रुद्रात्मा यच्छृष्टं मिदमात्मनः सन्नियच्छति तत्काले गणानीकम् इवानिलः. Thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord himself in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds. Purport. This creation is very appropriately compared to clouds. Clouds are created or situated in the sky, and when they are displaced, they remain in the same sky without manifestation. Similarly, the whole creation is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of Brahma. It is maintained by him in the form of Vishnu, and it is destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva, all in due course. The creation, maintenance, and destruction are nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita 8, 19 to 20 as follows. Okay, so before that, we should see that here it is mentioned, the Supreme Lord, he manifests the creation by, in his form of Brahma. So we should know that Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Maheshwara, all these three are guna avatars. Guna avatars. So they are called as avatars of the Lord. That means, that is how it is mentioned in his form of Brahma. So in his form of Brahma, we should understand that is a specific energy that has been invested upon. So we, in the last few purports before we read this, sometimes the Brahma could be a living entity, and sometimes the Brahma could be Vishnu himself. So if there is a qualified personality who is there to officiate the position of Brahma, so then that living entity is invested with the Vishnu Shakti. So when it is invested, so it is called Shaktya Avesha. Like the energy of the Supreme Lord is invested upon that living entity to perform a particular task. That is how the Shaktya Avesha actually comes. And here it is a very very specific category of incarnation. Lord Brahma is called as the Guna Avatar. So Guna Avatar means like the capacity to manage one particular guna in the whole material creation. So that's a very very like huge responsibility, and an ordinary living entity cannot imagine doing such a thing. Like for example, even to rule a big nation or a country or things like that, it's a very difficult task. And Brahma has to rule over the entire universe, 14 planetary systems. It is not that easy at all. So it is only possible by Lord investing a special potency upon him. And that kind of investment of special potency is also called as an incarnation. and it is sometimes the special potency is addressed as the Supreme Lord himself, right? So that is the way in which it is addressed here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in this form of Brahma means Brahma is not as good as Vishnu. No, Brahma is like Saktavesh avatar. So that we had detailedly studied in the beginning of the second canto, right? So in that way, we can see that this in the form of Vishnu, he maintains it, and it is destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva. So Shiva is like, we know that Shiva belongs to the Ishvara category, and he doesn't belong to the Jiva category as opposed to Brahma. So Brahma is Jiva and invested with the Lord's potency, and Lord Shiva is in the category of Ishvara. Ishvara means like he is in the category of the Lord. So it is very nicely explained in Brahma Samhita. Shiram yatha dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pratahasti heto yash shambhutam nahi tata pratahasti heto. Sorry. Okay, I'm not able to remember the entire shloka. So anyways, the whole point is that Shiram yata dati vikara vishesha yoga. So just like Vishnu is just like the milk, and Lord Shiva is just like the curd. So like milk can transform into curd, but curd can never transform into milk. So in that way, we can see that Vishnu is the maintainer of the material creation. He has jurisdiction in the material world, and Vishnu is the only proprietor of the Vaikuntha Lokas. And Rudra or Lord Shiva has only jurisdiction in the material sky. So they don't have the jurisdiction on the spiritual sky. So Lord Shiva is a transformation of Vishnu just to take care of the material affairs. No, Lord Shiva exists as Ishvara. Okay, so this creation, maintenance, and destruction is explained in Bhagavad Gita 8:19 to 20. That is, Bhuta gramas sa evayam bhutva praliyate ratriagame vashaphartha prabhavantyagar agame parastasmat bhavanyo vyakta avyakto vyaktat sanatana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. The nature of the material world is that it is first created very nicely, then it develops very nicely and stays for a great number of years, even beyond the calculation of great mathematicians. But after that it is again destroyed during the night of Brahma without any residence. And at the end of night of Brahma, it is again manifested as a creation to follow the same principles of maintenance and destruction. The foolish conditioned souls who has taken this temporary world as permanent settlement has to learn intelligently why such creation and destruction take place. The fruitive actors in the material world are very enthusiastic in creation of big enterprises, big houses, big empires, big industries, and so many big things out of energy and ingredients supplied by the material agents of the Supreme Lord. Right? So this is how we are engaged in creating something big in this world, right? So there is one rishi, I think it's Lomasa Rishi, so who has huge lifespan, huge lifespan spanning across what is that like Brahma's days. So it's very huge lifespan, and he doesn't want to build a cottage for himself. And when his disciples came and asked him that, why not you build a cottage for yourself? So your bhajan will be peacefully executed. Now you have to be disturbed by the rain, heat, and things like that and all. So then he responded, he told that life is so short. No, why do you waste time in this way? Just do bhajan of Krishna. No, there is no time that is, we don't have sufficient time to perfect this life. So, that is the version of the great sages. Great sages, they live for a long time, but then they don't think of building big things for themselves. So, but then we puny people who live for a few tens of years, and then we think very big and we build big things, and we as if we are going to be there forever with this particular property and things like that. So when here this whole thing is mentioned, even the whole creation is going to be destroyed from time to time, then what to speak of our small enterprise and things like that we have. So this must be destroyed. So with such resources and at the cost of valuable energy, the conditioned soul creates, satisfies his whims, but unwillingly has to depart from all his creation and enter into another phase of life, to create again and again, to give hopes, to give hope to such foolish conditioned souls who waste their energy in this temporary material world. The Lord gives information that there is another nature which is eternally existent, abhyakto vyakta sanatana, right, without being occasionally created or destroyed, and that the conditioned soul can understand what he should do and how his valuable energy may be utilized. Instead of wasting his energy in matter, which is sure to be destroyed in due course by the supreme will, the conditioned soul should utilize his energy in devotional service of the Lord, so that he can be transferred to the other eternal nature, where there is no birth, no death, no creation, no destruction, but temporary life instead, full of knowledge and unlimited bliss. The temporary creation is thus exhibited and destroyed just to give information to the conditioned soul who is attached to temporary things. It is also meant to give him a chance for self-realization and not for sense gratification, which is the prime aim of all fruitive actors. Right? So the opportunities for sense gratification is given because we have desired it, but then it is going to be miserable. So the Lord is giving the opportunity to transfer ourselves to these spiritual planets. We should take advantage of that particular thing, right? So both are equally available, and we should try to take advantage of the going back to the spiritual world by practice of Krishna consciousness. Text 44. Ittam bhavena katito bhagavan bhagavattamah netam bhavena hi param drishtum arhati surayah. Translation: the great transcendentalist thus described the activities of Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. The great transcendentalist thus described the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. So that which is described till now is about the how the material ingredients that has come about, how different senses have come about, how various demigods have come about, and how the modes of nature are, and what are the different kind of species of life and different kinds of species made possible by the different modes of nature. So all these things that we saw, this is all, in one sense, Leela of the Lord in the material world. This creation aspect is a Leela of the Lord in the material world. But then the pure devotees, they deserve to see something more glorious than this, in things in transcendence beyond these features. So they like to relish the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, in Krishna consciousness. So, but these things also, as mentioned before, like Prabhupada mentions, the neophytes, they require these things. They cannot understand the Supreme Lord's pastimes immediately. The moment they see the pastimes of the Lord, if they calculate the Lord to be one of them, he's material, he's also like, having this material dualities and things like that, it could check the progress of the neophyte devotee. So it is very important that these aspects of creation and the Leela of the Lord in the material world or in the material creation, so that is also very important. That purifies a living entity. And in the purified state, he can actually relish the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So that is a nice thing, right? So that's mentioned here. Purport: the Lord is not only the creator and destroyer of material manifestations of his different energies, he is more than a simple creator and destroyer. For this is the feature of Ananda. To understand the Lord as a simple creator and destroyer, it's almost kind of the position of the, the Paramatma realization, right? So to come to the point of Bhagavan realization means to understand the Lord as a person, his likes and dislikes, and how we can actually serve him and please him and things like that. So that is the real, this one. That is why the devotees, they actually pray that, like, you put me in distressful situation, you put me in the most abominable and horrible situation, but I just simply want your devotional service, right? So Vritrasur, sometime back we had seen this Vritrasur's prayer, Nanaka Prishtam, Nachaparameshtam, Na Sarvabhaumam, Na Rasadhipatyam, Na Yoga Siddhir, Na Punarbhuvam Va, no Samanjasatva Virahaya Kangshe. So that means, the Vritrasur is praying that I don't want any of these positions which is there in the material world. I don't want any opulence, any even kingship position or even liberation or whatever it may be. I don't want anything. I just simply want your service, right? So we have many slokas like this in the in Srimad Bhagavatam, where the devotees actively denying no any of the opulences of this world, no, literally saying that no, right now you, if you want, you can maintain me in the footpath, no, in the street, or if you want, you can maintain me in a big palace. No, I just simply want to remember you all the time. I just simply want to render service unto you all the time. So that's the mood of a devotee, and that mood, no, tvama kinchana gochara, so that mood actually attracts the Lord. No, the people who are constantly thinking that I want this, I want that, and things like that, so, and constantly be affected by these things, icha dvesha of this world, they can never be peaceful and they can never be satisfied, and they can never attract the Supreme Lord. No, their chanting and their no devotional practice can never attract the Supreme Lord. So it is mentioned, a person who becomes completely peaceful, no, he is not disturbed in his mind, such a person is very attractive, no, in the eyes of the Lord. Right? So it's very important that devotees become peaceful in their mind. So it is mentioned, no, bhukti siddhi, like what is that? Bhukti mukti siddhi kami shakale ashanta, Krishna bhakta nishkama ataye vashanta. So this the people who are behind bhukti and mukti and siddhi, no, these people are constantly in trouble. If we have any material aspiration, we must be in trouble. We can never be peaceful. So no, it is in many different ways, like this is explained. So we can know ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yone evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So like the moment we come in touch with the material nature, the moment we get attached to the material nature, immediately we must be in distressful condition. We can never be peaceful at all, right? So we have to be in constant anxiety and tension and depression and pressure and stuffs like that. So it is very important, this ananda feature, this feature what is mentioned here, it is to understand the Lord, to understand the likes and dislikes of the Lord, and to be a sold out servant of the Lord, just to offer pleasure to him, right? So that is the position of what is that, a satisfied and a devotee of the Lord who's engaged in the service of the Lord, right? So okay, so this pleasure feature, Ananda, this pleasure feature of the Lord is understood by the pure devotees only and not by others. The impersonalist is satisfied simply by understanding the all-pervasive influence of the Lord. This is called the Brahman realization. So even the Brahman realization is so big, the Brahman realization is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Soshati na Kankshati. So there is no hankering and lamentation. No, it stops. All the hankering and lamentation is stopped. No, even in the Brahman realization, then we can just imagine the position of the devotees of the Lord. They are really great. No, they are completely dipped in the service of the Lord. No, they have no other thought other than serving the Lord, and they are so intoxicated, with the sweetness of that engagement. Simply by chanting the names of the Lord, they become so intoxicated. Simply by engaged in hearing the narrations of the Lord, they become so intoxicated. They don't want anything else in the life. No, they are just simply satisfied and completely in bliss, right? So, okay, greater than impersonalist is the mystic who sees the Lord situated in his heart as Paramatma, the partial representation of the Lord. But there are pure devotees who take part in the direct pleasure, Ananda, potency of the Lord, by factual reciprocation of loving service. The Lord in his abode, called the Vaikuntha planets, which are eternal manifestations, always remain with his associates and enjoy transcendental loving service by his pure devotees in different transcendental humors. The pure devotees of the Lord thus undergo a practice of devotional service to the Lord during the manifestation of the creation, and take full advantage of the manifestation by qualifying themselves to enter into the kingdom of God. The Bhagavad Gita 18:55 confirms this. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate tadanantaram. By development of pure devotional service, one can factually know the Lord as he is. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So, like how to know him? Like Bhagavan ko janna kaisa hai? Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So we can understand the Lord by bhaktya, by devotional service. Yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. He can understand like completely in tattva. So By development of pure devotional service, one can factually know the Lord as He is, and thus be trained in the bona fide service of the Lord, and be allowed to enter into the direct association of the Lord in so many capacities. The highest glorious association with the Lord is made possible in the planet of Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna enjoys himself with the gopis and his favorite animals, the Surabhi cows. A description of this transcendental land of Krishna is given in the Brahma Samhita, which is considered by Lord Chaitanya to be the most authentic literature in this connection. Right? So, Chinta Mani Prakara Satmashu Kalpa Vriksha Laksha Vateshu Shurabhi Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? So, text 45. Nasya Karmani Janmado Parashyanu Vidiyate Kartritva Prati Sedhartham Mayayaropitam Hitat. Okay. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. This is what we were addressing to when we spoke about the Lord created this world, in his form of Brahma. So it appears to be a direct interference, direct touch, that is there. Or the Lord is a creator, maintainer, and destroyer. So that is mentioned just to emphasize this point that the material nature is not on its own. No, it has to have the trigger from the Lord. So sometimes we can call the immediate cause as the cause, and sometimes we can call the remote cause as the cause, right? So sometimes we say like, what is the source of the electricity? We say that, the transformer which is there in my street, that's the source of the electricity. And the other way of telling is, what is the source of the electricity? Oh, the windmills and the hydroelectric, this one, and the chimneys, that are there. The, what is that? The power plants, that are there. That is the source of electricity. So that is a little remote cause, but then sometimes we call that as the cause. So in that way, we can call safely that the source of everything is the Supreme Lord. Creator of everything is the Supreme Lord. The destroyer of everything is the Supreme Lord. So, but is he doing it personally, or is he doing it through his agency? That matters. So here it's mentioned that it is very nicely put forward that the Lord is not directly in touch with all of them. The Lord is indirectly in touch with them. Right? So let's see the purport. The Vedic direction for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world is this: Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat pranat yat paryanti abhisamvishanti. That is, everything is created by Brahma. After creation, everything is maintained by Brahma, and after annihilation, Brahman, it's like Brahman. So it's talking about the supreme absolute, absolute truth. It's not the Brahma, the living entity. So everything is created by Brahman. Everything after creation, everything is maintained by Brahman, and after annihilation, everything is conserved in Brahman. Gross materialists without any knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan conclude material nature to be the ultimate cause of the material manifestation. And the modern scientists also share this view that the material nature is the ultimate cause of all the manifestation of the material world. That's why they give the Big Bang theory and stuff like that. So their explanation of the whole source is some chemical combination, because that is what they can see. They cannot understand the Supreme Lord exists. This view is refuted by all Vedic literature. The Vedanta philosophy mentions that Brahman is the fountainhead of all creation, maintenance, and destruction. And that is Janmadeshayataha. So that's a Vedanta Sutra, right? And Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary on the Vedanta philosophy, says the same thing. Janmadeshat yatonvayad itaratas chartesha abhignaswarat, etc. Inert matter is undoubtedly energy with potential to interact, but it has no initiative of its own. So the matter cannot initiate, okay, I will become a meaningful entity now. No, it is not possible. So it needs the support of some intelligent being. So that is when it is possible. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore comments on the aphorism Janma Desha by saying Abhignya and Swarat. No, this is extra that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the Vedanta Sutra, it's like a formula. It says Janma Desha Taha. And Srimad Bhagavatam says Janma Desha Yathon Mayad Itaratas Charteshva Abhigya Swarat. So he is Abhignya, that means he knows everything. No, and Itaratas, no, Anvayad Itaratas means directly and indirectly. In both the ways, no, we have seen that the Paramatma exists on the level of the universe, and the Paramatma exists on the level of the individual entities, no, living beings, and the Paramatma exists at the level of these, no, minute cells, no, the small minutest cells, no, the Paramatma exists even there. So he knows everything directly what is happening at the micro level, and he knows everything indirectly at the level of macro level. And both the levels, no, at every single level he is there, and he is consciousness. He's conscious of everything, Abhigya. And Swarat, he is completely independent, right? So he is the supreme consciousness and he is independent. Therefore, inert matter cannot be the ultimate cause of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. Superficially, material nature appears to be the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction, but material nature is set into motion for creation by the supreme conscious being, the personality of Godhead. So one example that is given, how a woman gets conceived, by the seed given by the male. So in the same way, like, once the woman gets conceived, then the whole creation of the body of the child is there, and the child comes out. So in the same way, we can see that the Lord impregnates the material nature with the living entities, and the material nature gives shape to the bodies, right? So that's how the whole thing is. And the people are not able to understand the Lord's touch in the whole creation. That's the big problem that is there, right? So that's how the materialism is surviving with its philosophy. Okay, so where did we leave? It's set into motion for creation by the supreme conscious. Superficially, material nature appears to be the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction, but material nature is set into motion for creation by the supreme conscious being, the personality of Godhead. He is the background of all creation, maintenance, and destruction. And this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Maya dakshena prakriti. Adyaksha means like, under my jurisdiction or under my control, under my order. Prakriti, Maya dakshena prakriti. The prakriti or the material nature works under my order. Suyate sacharacharam. Hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord, and she can work under the direction of the Lord, Adhyakshena. When the Lord throws his transcendental glance over the material nature, then only can the material nature act. As a father contacts the mother, who is then able to conceive a child. Although it appears to be appears to the layman that the mother gives birth to the child, the experienced man knows that the father gives birth to the child. The material nature therefore produces the moving and standing manifestation of the material world after being contacted by the Supreme Father and not independently. Considering material nature to be the cause of creation, maintenance, etc., is called the logic of nipples on the neck of a goat. So, the goat also has nipples on its neck. So, the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami describes the logic of Ajagala Sthana Nyaya as follows, as explained by His Divine Grace Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. The material nature as the material cause is known as Pradhana, and as the efficient cause is known as Maya. But since it is inert matter, it is not the remote. It is not the remote cause of creation. Kaviraj Goswami states as follows: Atayeva Krishna Mula Jagata Karana Prakriti Karana Eche Ajagalastana. Because Karanodakshaya Vishnu is plenary expansion of Krishna, it is he who electrifies the matter to put it in motion. The example of electrification is quite appropriate. A piece of iron is certainly not fire, but when the iron is made red hot, certainly it has the quality of fire through its burning capacity. So matter is compared to a piece of iron. It is electrified or made red hot by the glance or manipulation of the supreme consciousness of Vishnu. So it's very, very nicely put. So iron cannot act like fire, but if you electrify or if you make it hot, then it can act like fire. So now the matter seems to have consciousness, the matter seems to have likes and dislikes, in the form of human beings, animals, and things like that. How is it possible? Immediately we should understand this inert dead matter doesn't have consciousness. If it is exhibiting consciousness, it is because of the touch of the Supreme. No, it is because of the presence of the soul and the super soul. Otherwise, it cannot manifest all these things, right? So only by such electrification is the energy of matter displayed in various actions and reactions. Therefore, the inert matter is neither efficient nor the material cause of the cosmic manifestation. Sri Kapila Dev has said in Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, Etol Mukad Vipul Lingad Dhumad Bhapi Swa Sambhavat Api Atma Tvena Bimathad Yatagni Prutak Ulmukad. The original fire, its flame, its spark, and its smoke are all one, for fire is still fire, yet it is different from the flame. The flame is different from sparks, and sparks are different from the smoke. In every one of them, namely the flame, in the spark, and in the smoke, the integrity of fire is present. Yet all of them are differently situated with different positions. The cosmic manifestation is compared to the smoke, because when the smoke passes over sky, so many forms appear resembling many known and unknown manifestations. The sparks are compared to the living entities, and the flame are compared to the material nature, pradhana. So very amazing example. So the flame is a material nature and gives rise to the sparks, and then smoke is the external material forms that actually takes place. So so one must know that each and every one of them is effective simply because of being empowered by the quality of the original fire. Therefore, all of them, namely the material nature, the cosmic manifestation, and the living entities, are but different energies of the Lord, that is the fire. Therefore, those who accept the material nature as the cosmic manifestation's original cause, that is Prakriti, the cause of creation according to Sankhya philosophy, are not correct in their conclusion. The material nature has no separate existence without the Lord. Therefore, setting aside the Supreme Lord as the cause of all causes is called the Ajagalasthana, or trying to milk the nipples on the neck of a goat. The nipples on the neck of a goat may seem like source of milk, but to try to get milk from such nipples will be foolish. So the material nature is like this, Ajagalasthana. So it doesn't have its own creation, maintenance, and destruction, and things like that. It is all done because it is in touch with the Supreme Lord. It is in touch with the Supreme Power. Okay, so just a minute.